Hey everyone, we are in lesson 3 of 4, so not too much further to go. And in this lesson, we're talking about functions and operations of functions. So when we have functions, you can add them, subtract, multiply, and divide functions. And should be pretty, if you felt okay in the first lesson when I said find f of 2, if you could do that, then you're set. You can do this. So there's a couple of ways that you'll see these written as a question. So sometimes you'll see it written as something like f plus g of 4. That is exactly the same thing as saying f of 4 plus g of 4. So in a case like this, or an example when you're solving these types of problems, you've got to plug in 4 in the f function, plug in 4 for the g function, and then add them together. Add your answers together. That's it. So we're going to find f of 4 and g of 4 separately. So f of 4 would be 3 times 4 minus 7. All I did was I plugged in a 4 where I saw x. And 12 minus 7 is 5. Then I'm going to find g of 4. So g of 4 would be 13 minus 2 times 4. So I just plugged in a 4 for x in the g function. And that also is 5. It will not always be the same number. That was just a coincidence. And so f of 4 plus g of 4, well, that's 5 plus 5, which is 10. Pretty simple, hopefully, for you. All right. So I've kind of mixed up the way that these questions are written, just to kind of show you that you'll see it both ways. They mean the same. So I'm going to do f of negative 2. That would be 2. The only thing I'm changing is the x. That squared is outside. If you're not careful, when your function has a square or any exponent really, you can run into some trouble if you're not careful. So the only thing that I did was replace the x. And I'm going to show you or tell you, I can show you a trick on the calculator. If you are a person that you just always mess up the parentheses. When you have negatives, you just can't get it right. So I'm going to show you a trick. And that is the store button. So towards the bottom of your calculator on the far left side, you see something that says STO. It might have an arrow beside of it. This app that I've showed you, the Calculate 84 app, does not. But if you're on the Chromebook, it might. So I'm going to say, all right, I'm plugging in negative 2. So I'm going to type in negative 2. I'm going to click the store button, and it pops up the arrow. And then I'm going to click that XT theta N button that's under mode. And what that's doing is it's telling the calculator, all right, when I type in X, I want you to pretend that X is negative 2. And so then I can plug in my function, and instead of using negative 2, I can use X, because I've told the calculator that X is negative 2. So I can type in 2x squared minus x minus 12. And then you don't have to do the parentheses. It does the parentheses for you. And funny that it is negative 2. That makes it a little confusing but it just happened to be that answer is negative 2. So this, I love when I go back to my calculator and back in and it takes me out, equals negative 2. Then I'm going to find g of negative 2. So I'm going to go back to my calculator, and my calculator still thinks, if I type in x and hit enter, the calculator still thinks that x is negative 2. So I don't have to change that, and I'm going to type in x plus 7. It probably would have been just as easy to type negative 2 plus 7, but I'm showing you how that store function works. And negative 2 plus 7 negative 2 plus 7 equals 5. And so, f of negative 2 plus g of negative 2 is negative 2 plus 5, which is 3. And that's it. So I think that if you understand the process, that you could easily get at least to question 4. So I want you to pause the video and try. All right, you should have attempted questions 2 through 4. So I'm going to quickly run through those. So this number 2 is basically saying, all right, I'm going to find f of 8, and I'm going to subtract g of 8. So f of 8 is 2 times 8 squared minus 8 minus 12. You could go back to your calculator and you could say 8 store x, and now your x value is 8, and then you could type in 2x squared minus x minus 12. Or you could just type in 8 like you normally would. Just another way to do it. G of 8 is 8 plus 7, which is 15. So, f minus g of 8 is 108 minus 15, which is 93. F of negative 1 times g of negative 1. F of negative 1, 2 times negative 1 squared minus negative 1 minus 12. That gives me negative 9. And g of negative 1 is negative 1 plus 7, which is 6. And f of negative 1 times g of negative 1 is negative 9 times 6, which is negative 54. All right, number 4. This is the same thing as saying f of 5 divided by g of 5. F of 5 is 2 times 5 squared minus 5 minus 12, which is 33. And g of 5 is 5 plus 7, which is 12. So then I'm going to say, all right, f divided by g of 5. If I put that in the calculator, it's 33 over 12, which is 11 over 4. Simplified. If you just put 33 over 12, that's okay. All right, and then I get to a few little bit harder, but the only thing that's different is I'm now multiplying g of 8 by 3, but I'm still going to start by finding g of 8 and f of 8. And if I look back at number 2, guess what? I've already done that. So I'm going to say, all right, I know that g of 8 is 15. F of 8 is 108. I know that because I did it in number 2. So then I have to do 3 times 15 plus 108. 3 times 15 plus 108, which is 153. And number 6, f of 2 and g of 2. Oh man, I've not already done those. So we got to figure out what f of 2, ignore that negative outside. That's just like having some other number. F of 2, 2 times 2 squared minus 2 minus 12 is negative 6. And g of 2 would be 2 plus 7, which is 9. All right. So then I'm going to do negative 6 minus 6 times 9, which would be positive 6 minus 54, which is negative 48. If you have any questions on these, remember you always just, if you get stuck, just stop the video, send me an email, and if it's 8 to 3, I'm here at school and I check my email pretty regularly. If it's not, I have my email on my phone, and sometimes I don't reply right back, but sometimes I do. All right, now we're going to get into composition of functions, which is just another way we're going to solve functions. So what you see is it's like f with a little circle and then g of x. What that means is that g of x is like inside of f of x. So when you see a composition of functions, you always work inside out. So I would do g of x and get an answer for that, and then that answer gets plugged into f. And sometimes you'll have like several, you'll have several things inside of each other. So you always work inside out. So we're going to start at number 7. And number 7, the inside. We're going to do the insides first. So I am first going to find h of 2. I'm not going to be finding g of 2. I'm finding h of 2. And so h of 2 is 5 times 2 minus 3, which is 7. So I'm replacing h of 2 with 7 because they're equal. So I'm going to find g of 7 because I replaced that h of 2 with 7. G of 7 is 7 minus 1, which is 6. And that is your final answer. So you keep working, and then the last, the one the very far outside, that's the last one that you do. Sometimes it'll say like g of. Sometimes you'll plug back into the same function, and that's okay. Number 8. So we're doing the insides first. F of negative 2. So f of negative 2 is negative 2 cubed plus 8. And that is 0. So I'm going to replace that f of negative 2 with 0. And then I'm going to find h of 0. 5 times 0 minus 3 is negative 3. So we do insides first, and then you keep taking that answer and plugging it into the next one. Number 9, that's the one that's written that funny way. So rewrite it. This would be f of h of 0. So I just kept the letters. It's very important that you keep the letters in the same order. So I'm going to do the h of 0 first. That's 5 times 0 minus 3. We actually already did this one, which is negative 3. And then I have to take that number and plug it back in. So I'm going to find f of negative 3. That would be negative 3 cubed plus 8, which is negative 19. All right, I want you to try number 10. So pause the video, see if you can try number 10. So number 10, we do the f of negative 3 first, which is negative 3 cubed plus 8, which is negative 19. And then I'm going to do g of negative 19. Negative 19 minus 1 is negative 20. Numbers 11 and 12, same thing, except this time I have 3 functions. So I have to do it 3 times, but we always start inside out. So first, I'm going to do h. H of 1, that's 5 times 1 minus 3, which is 2. So I've got the h done. And sometimes if you have a lot, it just helps kind of to scribble the letters. And then I'm going to move to g. And this time I'm going to do g of 2. G of 2 is 2 minus 1, which is 1. I'm going to scribble out the G. And then I'm going to go to F. F, and I actually am using 1 because that's what I got in the last, my last thing. F of 1 is 1 cubed plus 8, which is 9. And that's my final answer. Now, last question. I'm sorry this video is a little longer. We're going to start with F, and we're going to do F of 1, because that's the most inside. 1 cubed plus 8 is 9. It's got F done. Move on to G. G of 9. 9 minus 1 is 8. Got G done. And then I'm going to move to H. H of 8 is 5 times 8 minus 3, which is 37. And that's my final answer. As always,